Kyiv reported that Russia has lost nearly 1 million troops since the start of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Romania's newly elected president, Nicos Sordan, has been officially sworn in. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported that Russia has lost nearly 1 million troops since the start of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. This includes 1,000 casualties in the past 24 hours and likely refers to dead, wounded, missing, and captured soldiers. Russia is now preparing for a new offensive, possibly over the summer, the Ukrainian military has said, as fighting intensifies along Ukraine's 1,000-kilometer front line. Moscow's forces launched a record 355 drones into Ukraine overnight, Ukraine's Air Force said on Monday, killing at least 6 people across multiple regions. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas condemned the latest attacks, calling them appalling.
It is clear that Russia has increased its pressure on Ukraine. It is really bombing Ukraine, and we have seen the deadliest attacks. So it is up to us to put the pressure on Russia so that it would also want peace. We are ready to do it on the European side, and we are hoping that other international partners will follow suit.
Monday's overnight Russian attack was the third large-scale attack in 3 nights, according to regional authorities.
U.S. President Donald Trump said he is not happy with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He spoke in reaction to Russia's wave of deadly strikes on Ukraine over the weekend. When Trump was asked by a reporter if he was thinking about imposing new sanctions on Russia, the U.S. leader said he would absolutely consider doing so.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time. Always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
Trump also spoke on tariffs and said he would delay the implementation of a 50% tax on goods from the European Union. After a call with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, the US president said he would extend the deadline from June 1st until July 9th.
Romania's newly elected president, Nicos Sordan, was officially sworn in on Monday. While the country's worst political crisis in decades is eased, multiple challenges lie ahead for Dan. After signing the constitutional oath, Dan promised to tackle Romania's economic woes and be a partner to society.
Statul român are nevoie de o schimbare fundamentală, bineînțeles, în limitele statului de drept. Și vă invit să continuați să fiți implicați cu toată forța socială pe care ați dovedit-o pentru a pune presiunea pozitivă pe instituțiile statului român pentru ca acestea să se reformeze. Și vă asigur că voi fi un președinte deschis la vocea societății și partener cu societatea.
The former mayor of Bucharest won the tense runoff against his hard-right opponent, George Simeon, in a rerun following the previous election's annulment. Many observers viewed the election outcome as crucial to maintaining Romania's place within Western alliances, especially as the war continues in neighboring Ukraine. In his campaign, Dan reaffirmed ties with Europe, continued support for Ukraine, and fiscal reforms.
Austria's former Conservative Chancellor Sebastian Kurz arriving at an appeals court in Vienna on Monday. And there was good news for him as the judges overturned last year's conviction for giving false testimony to a parliamentary committee. That verdict followed a 4-month hearing and was the first time in more than 30 years that a former Austrian Chancellor had stood trial. Kurz has denied any wrongdoing.
Zahlreiche Gerichtstermine gegeben, ein Unmaß an Auseinandersetzung mit diesen Vorwürfen. Ich glaube, Sie haben alle mitverfolgt, wie sehr das zelebriert worden ist und dass das jetzt alles in sich zusammengefallen ist. Es ist das rausgekommen, was ich immer gesagt habe, nämlich dass ich im Untersuchungsausschuss nicht die Unwahrheit gesagt habe und trotzdem haben die letzten Jahre so stattgefunden, wie sie stattgefunden haben.
The overturning of his perjury conviction and his 8-month suspended prison sentence remove Kurtz's only criminal conviction, a key obstacle to a potential political comeback. But prosecutors still have to decide whether to charge him over potential corruption-related offences in a separate investigation that forced him from office in 2021.
French President Emmanuel Macron began his Southeast Asia tour in Hanoi on Monday, calling for a world order based on law. Macron met with Vietnamese President Loong Quang, stressing the need for a rules-based system amid growing global tensions. France and Vietnam signed a number of major agreements, including the acquisition of 20 Airbus aircraft by Vietnam, as well as cooperation on nuclear energy, rail, satellites and vaccines. The visit comes days after US President Donald Trump threatened steep tariffs on European goods, raising concerns for both Vietnam and the EU. Vietnam, heavily reliant on exports, is pressured by Washington to buy more American products, while European officials warn against deals that could harm EU interests. Macron reaffirmed France's support for freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, a key issue for Vietnam's disputes with Beijing. Both leaders announced plans to strengthen defense ties with information sharing, cybersecurity and anti-terrorism agreements. France's relationship with Vietnam, once its colony, has grown closer in recent years. Macron's visit to Vietnam is the first by a French president in nearly a decade. The next stop on his tour are Indonesia and Singapore. North Korea has detained 4 officials after the failed launch of a naval destroyer last Wednesday in the port of Chongjin. Leader Kim Jong-un was reportedly furious, blaming criminal negligence as the reason of the accident that caused the warship to topple and partially submerge. State media named Ri Hyong-son, a senior munitions official, among those detained, along with the chief engineer and 2 other shipyard personnel. Satellite images showed the vessel covered in blue tarpaulins with parts underwater, highlighting the scale of the mishap. It is rare for Pyongyang to admit military failures or punish officials publicly, a sign of Kim's determination to modernize the Navy. The failed launch followed the successful debut of North Korea's first naval destroyer last month, which Kim had hailed as a breakthrough. South Korean officials believe the advanced warship named the Chohyong was likely built with Russian assistance and is capable of carrying nuclear missiles. Despite the public detention, North Korea claims the damage is minor and says repairs will take just 10 days, but experts suggest the event of the damage is being downplayed.
Venezuela's ruling party retained its significant majority in regional and parliamentary elections. Voting was largely boycotted by opposition groups protesting the government of President Nicolas Maduro and his contested re-election in 2024. Opposition urged voters to boycott the election, calling it a farce designed to legitimize authoritarian rule. However, Maduro dismissed the boycott.
Hoy ha demostrado la revolución bolivariana que está más vigente y más fuerte que nunca. Hoy hemos demostrado el poder del chavismo, del bolivarianismo del siglo XXI.
This was the first nationwide vote with broad voter eligibility since Maduro declared victory in the 2024 presidential election. A result widely questioned by international observers and many Venezuelans. Following that vote, the country's opposition said they had proof that they had won the ballot, sparking nationwide protests. More than 2,000 people, including protesters, election workers and political activists, have been arrested since Maduro's disputed re-election.
Denmark celebrates the birthday of King Fredericks X. From his balcony at Amalienborg Palace, King Frederick greeted the public, continuing a cherished tradition established by his mother, Queen Margaret II. He was accompanied by his mother, as well as his wife Queen Mary, and their children Princess Isabella, Prince Vincent and Princess Josephine.
Vi er meget stolte af vores monarki, og det har faktisk været en tradition igennem flere år, hvor vi plejede at fejre dronningen, og nu er det så kongens dag i stedet for. Jamen, vi er kommet, fordi vi tænkte, det kunne være hyggeligt at vise børnene, hvem kongen er, hvordan han ser ud, og hvem kongefamilien er.
Having ascended the throne in 2024 after his mother's abdication, King Frederik highlighted the significance of the autonomous Danish territories of Greenland and the Faroe Islands by updating the royal coat of arms to give their symbols more prominence during his reign.
Pope Leo XIV on Sunday asked for prayers for China's Catholics to be in communion with the Holy See in what were his first public remarks about one of the thorniest foreign policy issues facing his new pontificate.
Cari fratelli e sorelle,
The Pope recalls that on Saturday, the Catholic Church marked a special feast day to pray for the Church in China.
l'intercessione di Maria Santissima ottenga a loro e a noi la grazia di essere testimoni forti e gioiosi del Vangelo, anche in mezzo alle prove, per promuovere sempre la pace e l'armonia.
Pope Benedict XVI had initiated the feast day as part of his efforts to unify China's estimated 12 million Catholics. Since then, the Vatican has been working for years to try to improve relations with China that were officially severed over 7 decades ago.